You're listening to School Counseling Simplified, a podcast with easy-to-implement strategies for busy school counselors. Here's your host, Rachel Davis from Bright Futures Counseling.
Hey there, Rachel here. I am so glad that you all are listening to and enjoying the podcast. We've been getting some great feedback. I love to hear from y'all, so please send me a message letting me know which episodes are your favorites and what you want to hear more of in the future. I also want to share with you some exciting news. I have a free live masterclass for you. I will be sharing 3 secrets to transform your counseling program to increase your impact and get the recognition you deserve. Again, this is live and you don't want to miss it, so be sure to sign up today. You can sign up at stressfreeschoolcounseling.com. Okay, let's dive in. Hey y'all, thanks for listening to another episode of School Counseling Simplified. So today I'm going to share with you how to switch your counseling strategy mid-year. Okay, so mid-year, you're like, it's the end of the year. It's almost New Year's. So happy almost New Year's, by the way. But I mean mid-school year. So let's talk about the New Year for a minute. I have to admit, it's one of my least favorite holidays. I mean, I don't know why, because I do love glitter and champagne, but it's just a lot of hype, and I feel like all of the events, I mean, granted, this year is different, but typically it's like, you know, an $80 event to get 1 glass of champagne and a balloon, and it's just like a lot of hype for a little, I don't know. I'm just not a big New Year's fan. What about you? Let me know. I love holidays. I love all the things, and I do end up celebrating New Year's often, but it's just not my favorite. I think some of my favorite New Year's have been at home where we just bang some pots and pans together at midnight. But happy almost New Year. You know what I do love about New Year's is that it is a fresh start. So there's this feeling in the air. I think it happens twice a year, especially for us educators. It happens at New Year's, and then it happens back to school season. And it's just this like really good energy, you know, like a fresh, revitalized sense of like new beginnings. And I just love that feeling. So let's talk about New Year's resolutions first. Are you a resolutions person or are you a word person? So more recently, a lot of people have kind of been like hating on resolutions, and they say that it's better to choose one word to focus on for the year. I personally like resolutions because I like goal setting, and I think it's great to check in with yourself and to see how you can self-improve throughout the year, but why not at New Year's? And I also like the one-word idea, so I kind of do both. My word of the year this year I just decided on is impact. So the reason I chose this word is because I want to leave the world a little better than I found it. My goal this year, 2021, is to make a positive impact on others that I interact with. And I want to impact my favorite causes by giving more of time and money. And I want to impact the environment by using less plastic. This is a big one for me. I really hate plastic and straws. So are you doing a word of the year? Mine's impact. And please hold me accountable. I just said 3 things I want to do. So if you see me post a picture drinking out of a straw, call me out. But let me know what you're doing. Are you doing a word of the year? If so, I want to know your word. Please tell me. I'll make a thread in our Facebook group, actually, and you can comment in there with your word of the year. That would be great, so we can see what everyone's is and really cheer each other on. And then also, if you aren't doing a word of the year, or if you're doing resolutions as well, I want to know your resolutions. So maybe a personal and a professional one. So what is your goal for 2021? I just love a good goal setting sesh, and I want to know what you have planned for this year. So like I was saying, 2 times a year that I feel I have this really good energy around goal setting and new beginnings. It's a back to school and New Year's. And those are the 2 times of the year when I really break out my planners and I get intentional about my work and about setting my goals. And you may be thinking like, okay, back to school season makes sense for setting, your work goals. But New Year's, that's too late to change because we're halfway through the school year. Like it's second semester, so much has already been done. Why would you kind of switch up your work strategy now, your counseling strategy now? It is not too late. And there are 3 ways that you can change your counseling strategy mid-year. Because I have to say this is kind of a tangent, but one thing that always frustrates me about the public school system, at least, is we would have all these intervention meetings, like SST meetings for students. And when we would start to meet, everything would be planned so far in advance. And I remember meeting in the spring sometimes, and then they would say like, okay, so we're going to try this intervention in fall. And I'm like, what? That's so long. But I mean, I understood how the, calendar worked or how the system was, but it just kind of made me sad. Like, what can we do right now to, have some immediate impact and change? There I go with my word, impact. But anyways, so you can change your counseling strategy mid-year. You can improve your program mid-year. You can improve it anytime, but I think halfway through the school year and the start of a new calendar year is a great time to assess your program and to figure out where you're going to go from here. So here are 3 ways. First, you can reformat your schedule to be proactive. So remember, you want to have a proactive, preventative, comprehensive school counseling program. It's a mouthful, but it is true, proactive and preventative. So you want to reformat your schedule to reflect this. Now, a reactive schedule looks like this. It's where you have things planned and you have great intentions, but then a crisis happens and you have to run to do that, or you get called in to help with this student, or one group is late or a student doesn't show, and then you have to plan a lesson for this thing you got asked to do last minute. And at the end of the day, you didn't do any of the things that you had planned, and you do a lot of things you didn't have planned, but you feel frazzled and very reactive. And if this is you, let me know. Like, does this sound familiar? Because I have been there, and I feel like this is a common problem for school counselors. And I heard one time, and I love this, I heard one time that in the morning you want to wake up for your day, not to your day. So when you wake up, it's like you're kind of getting up first and you're ready to take on your day. You're here for it, opposed to waking up to your day, like where you wake up kind of late and you're like, oh, I'm here, but what's already happened so far that I've missed? It's kind of that mindset, being proactive versus being reactive. So in a proactive schedule, you have things are going to happen, right? And school counselors, this is a position and a job where things are kind of changing every day. They're ever evolving. They're very different than a teacher's schedule might look. So for example, I'm constantly impressed by teachers' schedules. If you look at a teacher's classroom schedule, it's down to the minute. Like, we're going to go to lunch, and then we have science, and then we have reading, and then we have break. And then, they're very planned. And I've seen some classes, they're like well-oiled oiled machines. That is one of those Southern accent words that I will never pronounce correctly. Cringing over here. But a well-oiled machine, some of these classrooms are. Teachers have the scheduling thing down. Counselors, I'm not saying we're not great at scheduling, but it's kind of the nature of our position that it's really fluid and we're responding to things. So it's okay to be constantly responding to different situations and tweaking your schedule. But responding is different than being reactive, right? So here's what you can do in order to be proactive. Number 1, establish a crisis response team protocol. So I've mentioned this in a previous episode on scheduling, and I love this idea. It's such a game changer for me. So a crisis response team protocol is where you get together with some other specialists at your school, or people who aren't traditional teachers on a traditional schedule. So maybe an instructional coach, a school psychologist, a behavior specialist, maybe your principal. And you are divvying up the amount of time for a potential crisis. So you look at the calendar day and you divide it up into different sections, and then you have a time slot that you're available and responsible for in case a crisis does happen. If a crisis happens, you were the one responsible during that time slot. If it happens outside of that time slot, you are not responsible for it. So that's when you can schedule your lessons and groups and individual sessions, things that you need to be held accountable for and things that you need to be there at a certain time. Now, during the crisis time, there are exceptions to this rule. Like, let's say it's a student that you work closely with and you have a great relationship with, and that student's having a crisis outside of your scheduled time. Of course, again, we're going to be flexible and realistic here. But likely, let's say there's a fight or a runner or someone's hiding under the table or throwing scissors or escalating. You know how there's so many examples how these things go. But if you're supposed to have a class lesson at that time, this is like not a good time for you to get called in on the walkie-talkie. Oh, Miss Rachel, we need you. So-and-so's having a meltdown. that's not a convenient time. That is not going to work well because you're not respecting the time of the teacher and students and of yourself for all your planning that you did for this class lesson. So instead, with this system of a crisis response team protocol, oh, I'm only responding during this time. That is Sandra's turn to go respond to the crisis. They radio her and she goes, and she knows it's her turn. You get to keep your lesson time. And you say, well, there's not a crisis every day. And I sure hope there is not. That's wonderful. I hope this only happens once a month. But let's be real, it's probably more than that. But it's not every day. So what do you do on the days when you have this time blocked off and there's not a crisis? You plan, you do batching, you do other proactive things for your program. But you just would not schedule any student direct services during this time because there's a chance that you will miss it. Okay. That's one way that you can reformat your schedule to be proactive. The second way is batching. So I mentioned this in the last episode. Again, batching your time is a game changer. Now, this is like the third or fourth time I've mentioned this on the podcast. So I want to know if you're batching. If you've tried this, let me know how it's going. I've seen such a game changer in my life when I started batching my work. So putting on your schedule, a chunk of time in the morning, 30 minutes for email, 30 minutes at the end of the day, scheduling some time slots for parent phone calls or parent meetings. That is one way to make your schedule proactive, not reactive. And finally, teacher sign up. So by having teachers sign up for class lessons, you can avoid the email yo-yo of back and forth. Like, when's a good time for me to come in? Oh, let me check my schedule. Back and forth checking email. Guess what we're not doing? Checking email, unless it's during our batch time. So you want to avoid the email yo-yo. You may say, well, it's already January. I'm already seeing some teachers. I get it, and you may have to continue systems as is. But if you have lessons that you have not yet scheduled for this semester, with these future lessons, go ahead and practice flipping the script, where the teachers sign up. You have your available slots listed, and the teachers come in and sign up. That's a great solution. And by implementing it mid-year of this school year, you're kind of training the teachers on what to expect and how you operate. So at back to school next year, it will be seamless and flawless. So the first way that you can change your counseling strategy mid-year is to reformat your schedule to be proactive. Now the second way is to get organized. So it is not too late to get organized. A lot of you are probably... I put an Instagram post on this the other day. You go check it out. It's like me holding an organized binder. And a lot of you are like, yes, that is me. I love color-coded organized binders. And then some of you are like, I'm all digital, no paper, but I'm very organized digitally. And then some of you are like, I'm not organized at all. I really need help with this. And I know many of you reached out to me and said that getting organized is one of your goals for 2021. That's excellent. That's an excellent goal to have and a great New Year's resolution to get more organized. So it's definitely not too late. This is the perfect time. Mid-year, new year, fresh start. Get organized. Start by making a caseload sheet. So get all of your students who you're seeing, all of their names, and organize them on a caseload sheet. You're going to write any information about them like teacher, grade, topic, that your area of need that you're seeing them for. This is where you'll keep track of their permission slips, all of those things. And you can also start using a counseling log. So this is where each day you'll log which students you saw and when you saw them and what you did with them. You can also note things like parent communication and affect. And finally, you can color code everything. So I love doing this. You can color code your calendar based on the type of service that it is. So for example, if it is an individual student, you can use green for all your individuals. And then in the text, you would write like individual : Andy. And then individual : Rachel. And when you look at your calendar, you see, oh, I have 2 green slots today. Just glancing at it, you can see immediately without even reading that you have 2 individual kids. Then for groups, give each group a different color, and that's that group's color. And then for lessons, those would all have the same color, and then meetings would all have the same color. Now, the groups are cool because let's say you have, this is stereotypical, but anger management is red, right? Angry. So if your anger management group is red on your calendar, you can correspond that to your caseload spreadsheet and highlight all of the group members' names in red on there And if you want to be even extra organized about it, you can have a Google Drive folder labeled red as well, and that's where you would keep all of that group's materials. You could even have a hard copy red folder as well. And it's just a really good way to kind of streamline across the board. I love organizing my calendar by color because, like I said, you know, in the morning you have your coffee, you glance at your calendar, and you can immediately see what to expect that day before you even read any words, just with a quick glance. So, reformatting your schedule to be more proactive is the first strategy. Getting organized is the second. And now the third strategy to switching it up mid-year is to start collecting data. So you may feel like it's too late to start collecting data. It's mid-school year. It is not too late. Some data is better than no data, and now is the time to start. Again, this is something you can start doing now, mid this school year. So at the beginning of next school year, you feel proficient in it and that you can really bring it and have great data collection strategies to start the new school year off right. So what you can do, let's say you're already seeing students, so it's too late to do a pre-test or a pre-self-assessment. You can do a mid-range assessment for students you're already seeing and then still do a post-test after session assessment, and that's still going to show some growth, right? You don't have the very beginning, but you still have the mid-range to after. And you can combine your pre-behavior surveys with permission slips. So pre-behavior survey, these are those forms that you can send out to parents and teachers where they can survey the students' the students' behaviors. So, for example, if it is a social skills is the need that you're working on with the student, the social skills behavior survey would say the student is friendly with others. The student initiates conversations with others. The student knows how to ask someone else to play. These are just examples. And the teacher or parent would write on a scale of 1 to 5, how good they are at this skill, or they would write yes, no, maybe. They're filling out these surveys. These are super helpful to have at the beginning and the end after you do services with a student. Now, what you can do is just prep these because you're going to see new students this semester. You're likely going to get new referrals. So go ahead and prep these. Get your permission slips, and then you can add a staple on it, or if it's digital, just attach them together, one of those surveys. So that way, every time you're sending out a permission slip to parents, they're guaranteed getting that survey they can go ahead and fill out and send back to. Saves you some time and effort there. And while you're at it, go ahead and add on your permission slip a available contact hours. So remember, I mentioned that with scheduling, with batching, you only want parents to be calling you sometimes. So that's one way to communicate that right off the get-go. So those are the 3 ways that you can change your counseling strategy mid-year. Again, that's reformatting your schedule to be proactive rather than reactive, getting organized, and start collecting data. Those 3 ways I challenge you to do. So again, it is not too late to switch your counseling strategy. Perhaps that you return a couple days before the kids do. I know at some schools that's the case. So maybe you get back on the 4th and they get back the 6th. Take an afternoon to get these new systems in place, and then you will save a million afternoons in the future. So again, this initial investment takes a little time. Set it up, and you will be thanking yourself all semester long. I hope you are feeling refreshed and ready to have your best semester yet. And I want to invite you to join me in a live masterclass where I'll be letting you in on 3 secrets to transform your counseling program to increase your impact, aka see more students, and get the recognition you deserve by advocating for your role and showing how valuable your counseling program is. So this masterclass, again, is live, so you have to sign up. Please don't miss it. You're going to learn so much. I have a lot to share with you. You can sign up at stressfreeschoolcounseling.com. Okay, talk to y'all next time.
Thanks for listening to School Counseling Simplified. You can find the links from today's episode in the show notes. If you'd like to connect with Rachel, she's on Instagram and Teachers Pay Teachers at Bright Futures Counseling. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any episodes of School Counseling Simplified. Talk to you next week.